thank you all so much for joining us for our Lunch and Learn. I am Tatiana Hardiman, and today I will be co-presenting with my colleagues, Sadie Hoover and Jennifer Bell, if you guys can just wave for us. Thank you. We are digital learning coordinators for the district. If you don't know what we do, we help teachers with digital learning needs, whether it's meeting with teachers individually, in groups, and PLTs, whole staff. We do all types of training. So if you want to learn more about how we or your digital learning coordinator can help enhance your instructional technology in classroom, please check our website and find your DLC. They are more than willing and happy to help you. And please follow us on Twitter as well. We post a lot of important content to share throughout the school year. So definitely check us out. Alrighty, so now that we've taken care of some housekeeping items, let's just jump right into our session. So first, we love starting our session off with mood check-ins. No, it's not just a filler activity. We actually genuinely want to know how you're doing because we truly do care, especially right now that things are constantly changing. So it's helpful to know the mood of our audience while presenting because it allows us to actually adjust how we present and just be understanding. So the same can ultimately be said for your own students. So our ask is, what emoji best represents how you are feeling currently? Now, if you do not have an emoji add-on, you can simply press the Windows key at the bottom left of your keyboard and press period, and an emoji keyboard will pop up. So drop your emoji in the chat box. Let us know how you are feeling right now.
Oh, and another way that a DLC taught me that we can do this is if you're in the chat box where it says send a message to everyone, you can actually right click and then select the word emoji.
So I love this because it's kind of a mix of everybody's like, yes, happy to be here, but oh my goodness, there's a lot going on. I'm getting a vibe of the, oh my goodness, there's a lot going on, but I'm happy to be here. Jennifer, are you cold? I think I see a cold.
I was wondering about that. Is that, are you shivering? Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate it. To those who have just joined our session, we will post the link to our presentation in the chat box. Join us because there will be opportunities for you to branch out and look at other links. So we definitely want you to be able to participate in the things that we are sharing with you. Alrighty, so thank you again so much for participating. We appreciate that so much. Moving on, here are the session goals for today's session. I will give you time to read and process. Alrighty. So recently, North Carolina has adopted digital learning standards for students. And in today's session, for those standards, we will actually touch base on. So if you want to learn more about the North Carolina digital learning standards for students, you can simply click on the link in the center, that image right there, and it will take you to the standards for the students so you can familiarize yourself. But we would definitely focus on the 4 that are highlighted.
Here we go with the good content, right? So engagement is really the fuel that makes learning happen. Student engagement is not just one variable, but in fact, it's 3. They're emotional, cognitive, and behavioral. So first, students need to be really emotionally invested. Then they can engage with the material and choose to positively complete tasks. So during this hour, we're going to spend some time looking at examples of activities and protocols that will support each one. So think of something you've done recently. It can be something personal or something professional that you put your heart into. Consider why you worked so hard on that thing. So it's likely that you put your heart into that because you had some type of an emotional investment in it, right? It felt really important to you. So it was worth it and you were ready to just dig in and keep going and really, go into that full speed ahead. All right, so what is emotional engagement then, right? Emotional engagement really relates to how the student feels in the classroom and how they feel regarding the lessons and activities that they're completing. And it's really important for students to feel connected to that learning because it increases their emotional engagement. So that connection piece is really important. And I'll pause and let you read this statement on the screen. Yes, and Nancy, thank you for sharing in the chat. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, because we feel sort of mentioning, to please others when we're doing this task, right? You want to make someone else happy too. That comes in with that emotional attachment. All right, awesome. Thanks, Todd. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so one strategy to increase emotional engagement is to use inclusion activities. It's really important to start lessons with these. We actually did one in the beginning where you dropped an emoji in our chat, and it really helps set the tone for the lesson and sort of build community. You can do academic-based, inclusion activities or feeling-centered. And so on the screen, you can see on the left, there's one that's really feelings based, which is what we did this morning. And so, there's an opportunity for students to go in, they type their name on a star, and they just drag it to the emoji that they connect with. And you can replace the emojis. If you teach secondary and maybe those feel too primary for you, you can put memes in there. You can put, images or any kind of photographs, and let students sort of just drag and show where they feel. And if they're not comfortable putting names, you can leave that part blank too and just let them drag a star. So you can say, oh, I have a lot of students that are feeling sleepy today. Let me do something high energy really quick to get them, moving and going and ready for the day. And so the one on the right is this one's always a fun one, of what fictional family would you be a member? And so students get to kind of use their imagination and pretend and really think and consider, different things that they connect with and kind of have fun with it. So it really gets everybody involved in participating and feeling connected to the group. And it also makes for great quick discussions. All right, so we're going to participate quickly in an inclusion activity called Half the Story. And this is an academic centered activity. And so what we do with this is there's an image on the screen, and we've covered half of that image with just a black rectangle. And so what we would like for you to do is in the chat, go ahead and explain what you think might be happening in the image. But beyond that, remember I said this was an academic example. So what evidence do you have to support your idea? Okay, so I'll give you time to put that in the chat. What might be happening? What is in the picture? And what evidence do you have to support your idea? And Rudy shared a geyser maybe is erupting. I see ice and steam. Thank you, Leanne. So there's some evidence to support your thinking. Oh, a fire, yes. And why might we think that could be a fire, right? What evidence do we have that that could be a fire? Okay. So now, Tatiana, if you would please jump out of present mode and move that away, we are going to reveal what is actually there. All right, and here we just slide that rectangle away. And now you can see, this is actually an image that I just downloaded from Discovery Education. We all have access to Discovery Ed, and they have a plethora of resources with the images. So we downloaded this image, and the nice thing is the image gives you credit so that you can put credit and practice that digital citizenship and put all of that in with your slides. And so what's happening is this is steam rising from a thermal pool or a hot spring. And so a hot spring is created when the water is heated by molten rock deep within the earth, and it's rising to the surface and beginning to boil. And so you can have a great discussion totally related to your content, but we have this inclusion activity where we're pulling from everybody's background knowledge and getting them engaged and participating in a meaningful way right from the beginning. All right, awesome, thanks. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so another thing is students really need to feel seen and heard, right? We're going back to that emotional engagement. And so when they really need an audience. They want to be connected. And so the more feedback a teacher can provide, the more likely students are to feel supported and safe. And so you can provide positive feedback to students in so many ways, right? One strategy you can use is digital badges, and Tatiana's going to open that for us and just show you this example. And what it does, you can use any kind of stickers, right? These are just the fun. I know a lot of teachers like to use the Bitmoji stickers and things where you combine some images and make your own. But if that's not your thing, because that maybe takes too much time or whatever, you can just use emojis. You can, do an Google image search, right? And find thumbs up or find something that says, good job, you did it, right on track, or try again, right? And so you drag these badges over to the column, and then you just grab a text box, you retype whatever your message is to the student, and then you just make this a daily routine. Every day at the end of the day, students know when we hang up from Google Meet, they need to go straight to this daily badge template. And you can keep it in your learning management system as a link so that that student can access that regularly. And you can even go a step further where they have editing access and can maybe comment back to you. So you can really play with this and use it however that will fit your needs and your students' needs. All right, thanks. So the next example of another strategy is using Google Keep. So this Google Keep example just really lists, you go in and create it yourself. You open up Google Keep and you create a new little post-it sort of, and you can type in commonly used comments that you want to give students. So that way you're really aligning to your standard, right? You can take some of the language from that standard and include it in a comment. And then all you have to do is go in and copy and paste that for a student to give feedback. And so it saves you time. You can even add collaborators to your Google Keep so that people within your PLT can all use that and contribute to it. And so it's just a really great way. And the only piece that you need to do that step further is just make sure when you do copy and paste it, that you customize it just a little, right? Add the student's name, comment on something very specific about their work so that it's not so generic, but it's still very purposeful and important for them to really grow and continue learning. All right. And so the last example on the page is a digital rubric. And, it's really great for the kids themselves as they're working through their learning targets and, finding where they are in terms of meeting their learning targets. And the student or teacher, either one, can just sort of open up a conversation. Where do you feel like you are, right? And students can go in and add that, or the teacher can go in and comment. And it's just really simple, right? You have your I can statements on the side. And then across the top, there's just 3 levels. Hey, you've got this, right? And I give you some feedback for that standard. Or maybe you need to keep trying. We're not quite there, and you can give feedback on that. Or if it's one of those situations where we're really not meeting that target, you can go in and say, hey, let's meet. Let's schedule a time to get together. And that way you can have an independent Google Meet or a conference with your student, and they can see that quickly, and you all can have a conversation and get that critical feedback that's needed. And of course, our learning management systems all have built-in rubrics. So whether using Google Classroom or Canvas, you have that opportunity to use their rubrics as well if you're not interested in using one of these. I think the visuals are great opportunities in these. All right, so on the next slide, we have some examples of single point rubrics. And single point rubrics are just another option that provides a quick and simplistic way to share expectations and give feedback with just one column of criteria, right? Some rubrics can get so in depth and have so many levels of things that students can get overwhelmed by that. And so if you look at the bottom of the slide, there's actually a couple hyperlinks, and those hyperlinks will take you to some more examples and an opportunity to really go in-depth exploration of what a single point rubric is and how that works. But these are both hyperlinked, so you're welcome to go in and make a copy of these if you like those. But you'll notice it just has that one criteria, and then you show like, hey, are we building proficiency to that? And what have you done beyond the expectation? And then you can go in and score the rubric really quickly, and it just makes for a little bit faster feedback that's a little less time consuming on the teacher side. All right. So back channels, we're actually using a back channel today, which is our chat, right? You are communicating, asking questions, and we're sharing links right in our Google Meet chat. And so back channels are just a way to keep students engaged and participating and answering and asking questions. So in your learning management systems, there are message centers, right? You can use Google Jamboards or Padlets. A paper parking lot when you're in the classroom, you can just have where they go put a post-it on on a spot in your room to add and use that as a back channel. The image that's on the screen is linked to a web page with a ton of really great resources that some DLCs have curated for you. I believe Chris Circle and a couple others. But it's, they have this great legend on there. And so you can, use that legend, say, hey, today, in your back channel in our Google Meet chat, I need you to share a key detail or a question, right? And students can go in and it's very purposeful. So it's not sort of a free for all when they're using it, but it gives them guidance towards using it in a meaningful way. All right, so we have, and Jen, I believe is going to drop in there. Yes, she got it. Thank you, Jen. She dropped in the chat for you in our back channel a hyperlink to this Discovery Ed Spotlight on Strategy, and it's called Paper Chat. And this can be done literally in paper in the classroom when you're face-to-face, but you can modify it and make it digital. It's research-based, and I think it's really important that we're using those strategies because, as we improve our pedagogy and our teaching strategies. And so if you would like, we would love for you to jump in and join that Padlet. And we're going to give you a quiet 2 minutes, I believe. And once you're in there, there is a very targeted question, right? We have an essential question at the top. And so read that essential question. In what ways might we engage students, whether in person or online? And you can, react to other posts. There's already some there for examples, but go ahead in now if you would, and I'll mute myself for 2 minutes and get started. You all can get started. All right, and I see we've had a few joins. So I'm just going to explain really quickly, what we're doing. We have participants right now participating in a back channel. It's a Discovery Ed Spotlight on Strategy, instructional strategy called Paper Chat, and we've actually digitized it as a Padlet. And so there will be a link in the chat. I'll have Jen repost that so everyone can join. And we've got about 45 seconds left for some folks to go in and type in a response to the essential question posted and give some reactions and comment with some other posts that are on there. All right, and come back to our Google Meet. And we're going to pause at this time. I love reading everyone's ideas, and I can't wait to deeper dive into those and make some comments and give some reactions. But hopefully you'll see how that can be a really purposeful way to engage students. In the chat, if you would, before we transition to the next section of our presentation, go ahead and drop your questions or thoughts that you have, and we will definitely answer those for you.
So now I'm going to allow you time to just kind of process what Sadie said. But ultimately, once students are emotionally invested, it's time for them to experience some deeper learning. So to gain a better understanding, I would like for you to just think about a teacher who made you feel safe and respected. Were you motivated in that class? And once you were motivated, what kept you going? This moves us to cognitive engagement. So again, I'm going to allow you process time to just kind of read. I don't want to read at you. So cognitive learning is the concept that there is actually a distinction between remote learning and deeper learning. So the student's focus should not be on what's going on outside or any outside, distractions. It should be the learning that's going on in the classroom. So we're going to dive into 2 good practices that will be helpful in engaging students as it relates to cognitive learning. So the first thing is to help students with engaging through cognitive learning. You can refer to the protocols that have been mentioned in the courses that we took at the beginning of the school year. Some people might have forgot, some people it might be your go-to. So these are simple activities that you can use to get your students started as it relates to thinking and even being engaged. So if you're like me, you want to work smarter and not harder, there's a list of activities that you can actually reference. So I'm going to click on the adaptive elaborative protocols. Okay. All right. So this is great, and it's been a document that has developed over time. So there's some really good go-to activities, things that we've done throughout our teaching careers, such as fishbowl and jigsaw, to name a few. Now, what's amazing about this document specifically is that it's always a reference guide. So if there's some things you're like, oh my gosh, we've been doing the same thing in my class, I want to do something new and refreshing, it gives you the purpose of the activity, it gives you the procedures, as well as what you can do to socially distance your students, and synchronous and asynchronous online suggestions. So no matter your environment, you have a list and procedure of things that will work very well in your classroom. So that is definitely a go-to. Another thing, we have some examples of collaborative protocols that work very well. The top example is a virtual turn and talk through Jamboard. And this is kind of specific to our elementary school students, excuse me, but it can be adapted for any learner. So it's a nice way for students to collaborate. You put your directions on one of the slides, and then you pose questions, and students can actually have the opportunity to think a little bit deeper and to jot down their ideas. So we have this one is specific to your 5 themes of geography, and there's just questions on each slide, and students can answer that. They can do it individually or they can do it collaboratively. In addition, there's one that's more so for your middle and high school students. It's a little bit more detailed. I won't click on it, but it is a jigsaw, and it's an example if you want to dive into it a little bit later on. And you can kind of see how that can actually work in your learning environment and what works best for your students as well. All right, so we move on to graphic organizers. Now, graphic organizers can be a great way to get your students to think deeper as well. This can be, again, done individually, or it can be done collaboratively in any learning environment. So no matter where you are, it could definitely take place in your classroom. So we also have the graphic organizer, which is the event title. Now, this one I really enjoy because it is specific to a Google drawing. And I'm just going to click on it really quickly. Now, this is nice because people don't think to use Google Drawings quite often, but Google Drawings can do some amazing things. This one is interactive, so you can have your students to work together or work independently and just have them think throughout that particular content or that lesson, and just kind of give them the opportunity to just take their time, process, and dig a little bit deeper. But this is a nice, easy graphic organizer to get yourself started. In addition, now there are some protocols and activities that you might have done in the past, but please do not hesitate to go back to your old faithfuls and things that work really well. And it's always nice to change things up a little bit for students. So we just want to make sure that we're constantly engaging them, we're constantly checking ourselves, and we're giving them opportunities to actually think a little bit deeper rather than just focusing on the remote learning. So I'm going to give us process time to think or to ask questions or to even comment. So I'm going to stop talking briefly.
There's been a few great comments about some of the templates, and I just want to mention that there are those grab and go, that those are later on in the presentation towards the end. Everything that you're seeing and some other great templates are available there.
And one of the things we want to make sure that we wanted to give you different formats. So the templates will be Google Drawings, Jamboards, Google Docs, Google Slides, whatever it is that you're comfortable with. We definitely have those resources readily available for you. We do not want you to start from ground zero. So the graphic organizers and the other collaborative things will definitely be available to you later on in the presentation. All right, so now I'm going to turn it over to Jen to get started on behavioral.
Thanks so much. The thing that I love about what we're talking about today is I want you to think first about what moves you to action. Do you use an alarm, reminders on your phone? And what happens when that alarm or that reminder pops up on your phone? And I laugh because just this morning, I know for myself that I need to have that reminder. I've gotten so used to it because it takes me from the thing that I want to do and moves me into it. Yes, Apple Watches, like, you know, anything like that. You can jump out of your chair. I think of our kids who listen to the music from a brain break and immediately know it moves them to action. They need to get up and move. And that's what we're going to think a little bit about. So interestingly, this is really a hierarchy and the order really matters. So first we have to emotionally engage our kids, and then we want them to engage in that content and deeper learning. But behavioral engagement is the last piece of this. It's the one that we think we can actually quote unquote see or observe. I just want to bring to light that engagement is not a new issue. This didn't start happening, like kids aren't engaged because they're in a virtual environment. It's really important to acknowledge that engagement has always been an issue. And just because our kids are looking at us or they're sitting in our classroom, that's not behavioral, that's not cognitive behavioral engagement. There's a difference between just being present and being engaged. So what we're about to talk about are some great ways to move into where kids are invested and they want to do it. That's their behavioral, it's internal. It's that whatever you've assigned as a task, they're willing and able to do because they're engaged in it, not because they're sitting in your room or you think that they are watching you. And there are some great things to think about. The first thing I want you to think about is, and this is one sometimes I think as teachers, we skip over, are we making sure that everything that we are asking our students to do is accessible? And here's a really quick, easy, amazing thing. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness. Sadie showed it to me and I was hooked. So this is, I'm gonna just ask Todd to click on that directions example. And I want you to know that anything you put in directions, you can have translated and have a link right there in your directions that takes them right to the translation. So I'm going to simply say, I'm going to ask type a question. Let me think. Our question is, what are the 3 branches of government? I want you to notice right now it's translating into Spanish. Also, there's that audio link for our students who need the directions read. They can be read in both English as well as in another language. So any students who are better auditory learners, or even students who are in our ESL programs, they can both see and listen to both. If Tot copies the URL link right at the top, she copies that and comes back to our presentation. When she changes the link, I'm not going to have her do it. If she were to change the link right there on that example, it's going to take you right to exactly what she just typed. So the students don't have to type in the words or copy and paste them. It takes them right to the link that has the directions that they can click on and listen to. I love that one. That's a great accessibility one. Some other ways that we provide accessibility are some great Chrome extensions. We have just a few listed here, and the word Chrome extensions is linked just to the WCPSS extensions that are approved for students. I'm gonna have Todd just quick demo Mercury Reader because it is one of my favorites. I'm gonna ask her to kindly click on the link to an article about llamas. And I just found this article about llamas this morning. And the title caught my eye because we're hoping that llamas will become a coronavirus heroes. And I'm gonna have her click on the Mercury Reader link. That extension is right in the top upper corner of her screen. And as soon as she clicks on it, it turns that website into text. It gets rid of distracting ads, any nonsense that's going to pop up. You can then copy and paste this link right into anything you assign in your learning management system, in anything you do. I think sometimes when we send kids to websites, it can be really distracting for them. And this is such an awesome tool to have. I'm going to ask Kat, can you click back on our presentation? If we pair this with some of the other extensions like read and write, you can also have things read to you, that text. So there's a whole lot of accessibility and great features. There's some great math links there too as well that you can peruse at your own leisure. And those are all great math manipulatives that kids can really install in their own Chromebook. It takes 2 seconds. If you need help adding extensions, we're happy to stick around afterwards and show you how to do that, but those are some great tools. Once we start thinking about, okay, we have our accessibility, how do we want to really behaviorally engage our kids? And we know that student agency, voice and choice is a great way to do it. There's different kinds of choice boards, and the thing I want you to really think about is when you design them, do you want to design a choice board that gives that those options and choices in how the students respond or in the activities that they choose to do? Those are just 2 different models, and those are linked to that example that you can take a look at. Later on, you're going to get a chance to look at some great choice board templates and different things that you'll be able to modify, and those examples are also in there. I am a super fast talker. It's the Jersey girl in me. So please, if you do have any questions, kindly, please type them in the chat. I know I speak exceptionally quickly. Along with voice and choice are some great ways to get kids collaborating. And I think for myself, for me, I think this was the most daunting. And I was in the classroom for 20 years. And sometimes in thinking through just being in the building in a collaborative activity, being so thoughtful about, okay, how am I giving the kids the opportunities? How are we grouping the kids? How am I going to make sure everybody's engaged? I think sometimes when we move into a blended learning or an online environment, that can be one more thing that seems daunting. There are some really simple templates and some simple ways that we can use the tools that you already know how to use to engage kids behaviorally, where we don't have to be on a meet with them. We can give them that safe space. We can see what they're doing on the back end through our learning management systems, or being in something with them, in a file with them. And so there are also some great examples that you're going to get a chance to look at in just a minute. So these are just 3 that we wanted you to think about. Collaborating for brainstorming is a great way to let kids, initially start to think about something even before you ask them to engage in that content. There's examples in there, the slide vocabulary, where it's literally like, these are the key vocabulary words you need to know. How can we let kids make that a little more engaging for them and have some choice in the things that they say and do? And 3 truths and a lie is another great one. That's one of my favorites, where we can actually academically ask kids to engage in content. It doesn't just have to be like 3 truths about yourself. If I'm teaching a lesson about unicellular and multicellular organisms, I can link this directly to my curriculum. Type 3 true statements about multicellular organisms and 1 false, and then allow the kids to choose for each other. So remember, some of these really fun, engaging things directly link right to our curriculum. So to give you a chance to engage and select some behavioral engagement strategies for you to try, we're going to give you a few minutes to either try translating your own directions and being able to copy and paste that link somewhere so that you can see what your students are able to do. And you can take something right off of a doc that you created and try it. Or if you'd like some time to investigate some templates, if you click on that pink folder, it will take you Tat, do you mind just clicking on that for a second? It'll take you right to a shared folder. Everything in there is just viewable. And those are some great templates that we talked about. I'm going to stop talking, open up the chat for any questions, and just invite you to investigate for a few minutes. We're going to move on in just a second. I wanted to invite also, please know that any of those templates, if you're working on something and you're thinking this might be something I'd love to try and get started with, your DLCs are really, your area DLCs would love to help plan or work through some of the great things that you see that are going to happen, as well as any challenges that you might find in thinking about using them. So we are here for you, but please also know that if you reach out to your area DLCs, they can certainly help you really get moving on making sure that all of these levels of engagement and the activities that we've talked about in any way if you need somebody to talk through it with. Clearly, I'm an out loud processor, so that would work great for me.
So this quote really resonated with me. I'm just going to give a brief moment for you all to read it for yourself. So the word pivot could possibly go down as being the #1 word of remote learning. Well, the truth is, as educators, we've done this consistently on a consistent basis before remote learning was even a thing. So we're constantly having to change our approach just based off the needs of our students or anything that's going on in the building. We're constantly pivoting. So student engagement should be no different. If students are disengaged, we as teachers, as educators, it's our responsibility to step back and see what adjustments can be made to get our students back on track. So we want to make sure that we keep this in mind and just not do what's comfortable, but always do a self-check just to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our learners. So we mentioned it multiple times in our presentation. There's lots of templates that we've actually included, that we've used. Everything that we've done in this presentation, the resources are definitely linked. We have the inclusion activities, which was a part of our check-ins that we did at the beginning of the presentation. We've included some templates there, so you are not starting from scratch. It's just something that you can go modify, use as you see fit. So we are constantly adding to it as we find new things to use. So here's a quick reference of some of the grab and go activities that we mentioned. You can kind of flip through and just see some of the different activities. Use what worked for you and just do it as a nice warm up for your students. They would definitely appreciate it. The choice boards that was mentioned earlier, that's also linked, as well as the graphic organizer. If you are into interactive slides, there is a website that's readily available. I believe the teacher's name is Teresa Wills. She's created amazing interactive slides for teachers and staff members to use. And again, that's a great resource as well. So if you want to learn more to further your learning, just check out the links on those pages, excuse me. There's so many things that are out there. We just wanted to kind of just condense them all and just allow you to look at some amazing resources that are readily available for you. In addition, we have a DLC podcast and newsletter. And some of those things we're talking about feedback, we're talking about assessment, station rotation. There's lots of great content. One of the good things about the podcast is we have teachers that are in the trenches with you all. They are talking about their experiences and things that are going well, what's working for them, and trends that they're seeing with their students. So it's great to hear from the voice of a teacher that is currently working in remote learning. So definitely check that out. In addition, our newsletter, we are constantly pushing out information as it relates to instructional technology. Some great things that are available for each month. Please check that out. We also mentioned things like choice boards, and resources are also provided there, and that's done on a monthly basis. If you like what you saw today, there are many lunch and learns that are in the works. We have past and we have upcoming lunch and learns that are available. If there's some lunch and learns that you weren't able to attend, don't worry, they are recorded. The slides are available to you. You can go back and look at that asynchronously, which is awesome, and get some really good things that are available to you as well. And we also have upcoming information on the lunch and learns, things that you'll see in the month of February. All right, well, just a reminder, the sessions are recorded. You can preview this in a couple of days. If there was information that you missed, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to go back and check it out, that would definitely be available to you on our website. You can also reach out to your digital learning coordinators. If you have no clue who your digital learning coordinator is, don't worry, just click on the website. You can search your area and you will be able to identify those people. And there's other great information that's readily available on our website as well. And lastly, we appreciate your feedback. We modify our sessions based on your responses. Constructive criticism is a beautiful thing. We take that and we make changes and we move forward so that we can help everyone else. So we ask that you please just stay on one more minute. Take 1 minute to take our survey. We will definitely appreciate any feedback that you give. In addition, we will definitely stay on this session. So if you have questions or comments or anything that you want to mention or discuss, Sadie, myself, and Jen, and possibly some other DLCs will definitely stick around and answer whatever questions or concerns you might have. Thank you so much for attending our session. We appreciate you all taking out the time on your busy day to join us, and we definitely will hope to see you soon.